Hello, welcome to Bookspin. I thought I'd share with you some books I picked up recently. Most of these feature in my recent video, Hidden Gems of Sci-Fi, in which a few writers and booktubers that I follow give me their recommendations on the theme of underrated science fiction. So we've got a mixture here of new and old. There's a few secondhand vintage copies and some new stuff. So I'm going to start off with the Hidden Gems titles, and if you want to know more about those books, check out that video. So I'm going to start off with the secondhand copies. Now the first book that I've got here is Remnant Population by Elizabeth Moon, and this was one which was suggested to me by Whitney from The Secret Source of Storycraft. I don't know a lot about this book beyond what she told me. I've not read Elizabeth Moon before. I've heard that she is a good writer. This is a second-hand copy. I really love the illustration on this cover. Very enticing. And yeah, I will happily get stuck into this book soon. The next one I have here is Under Heaven's Bridge by Ian Watson and Michael Bishop. This was a suggestion by Alistair Reynolds. It's a first contact story, and it was published in the 1980s. I think this book has been out of print for a while. It's quite a slim volume, so it shouldn't take up too much of my time. Again, another second-hand copy. Nice one for the collection. Another Alistair Reynolds suggested title was Oracle by Ian Watson. And this, again, I think it's out of print, but I found a second-hand copy, and the premise of this one looks really interesting. It's a time travel story, and just to give you an idea of what it's about, I'll read some of the blurb. I won't read all of it, just the opening paragraph. It says, when Tom Ryan stops his car late at night on a dark road for a man dressed as a Roman centurion, his first thought is that he's picked up one of those amateur reenactors. But the man, Marcus Appius Silvanus, appears to speak only Latin. He insists the year is AD 60, and that the British Queen is Boudica, and that he and his men of the 14th Gemina are in hot pursuit of her. Tom and his sister Mary shelter the Roman, but inadvertently attract the attention of an unscrupulous journalist. And it goes on. This sounds really intriguing. This might be the first of these hidden gems that I might read. Possibly. I might read this one as my next book. So that's Oracle. We also have this title, Little Fuzzy, which was another suggestion by Whitney. And this is quite an old vintage copy. I had never heard of this book before, or this author, before Whitney told me about it. Quite a cute little creature on the front cover. And this one says UK price 60p. So this is quite an old copy. I'm guessing it's 1970s. Let's have a look. Yeah, first published in Great Britain, 1977. Although it's actually copyright 1962. In fact, it says on the back, first UK publication of one of the most widely acclaimed science fiction novels of all time. Which is interesting, because I've never heard of it, as I said. Another slim volume, so shouldn't take up too much of a time. Look forward to reading that one. Now we're on to the new books, starting with Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. This story takes place in Lagos, Nigeria. And I haven't read this author yet, although I do have another one of her books on my shelf. I'm looking forward to reading Lagoon. Now we've got an SF Masterworks book. This is No Enemy But Time by Michael Bishop, which was another recommendation by Alistair Reynolds on the theme of time travel. And Alistair Reynolds actually wrote the introduction to this edition. So look forward to reading that. The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. Another author I'd never heard of before, and this was suggested by Victor Manibo, who is the writer of The Sleepless. I did a bit of research into this book, and it's one of the most recently published ones in this haul, I think 2020, yeah. It's got some very good reviews. The interesting thing about this book is, unlike the other books in this list and the Hidden Gems haul, I didn't actually buy this one. This was given to me as a gift by my wife, which is a massive coincidence because she gave it to me before I made that video, and she had no idea that this book was on my radar. She just found it in a bookshop and thought I might like it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading The Vanished Birds, along with another recommendation by Victor Manibo, The Lesson by Cadwell Turnbull, which looks quite interesting because I think this is some kind of first contact story about an alien ship that lands in the Caribbean, and it's told from the perspective of the local people there, I think. I haven't really looked into it that much. But again, it's quite interesting to read a sci-fi story from a slightly different perspective. It's not American-centric or Eurocentric. So I look forward to that one as well. Also quite a recent publication, 2019, I think. Another book I picked up is this anthology called Adventures in Space. And I picked up this book as a suggestion from Xueting Ni because it includes stories by two authors that she recommended, He Xi and Zhao Haihong, among others. And this is very recently published. It only came out in April 2023. It's interesting because this title is Adventures in Space, New Short Stories by Chinese and English science fiction writers. I'm not quite sure what the editors were going for in their vision for this volume. I'm not quite sure why they decided to combine Chinese and English or English language writers in this way. But there are a few writers listed here that I'm familiar with, like Bao Shu and Han Song. The rest, I don't think I know the rest of them, but I'm sure there are going to be a few gems in here. So I look forward to reading this book as well. And I've also picked up just a few others recently, including, for example, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This was also a gift from my wife. I have heard of this book before. I've not read it, obviously. I've not watched the movie either. And I have heard mixed things about this book. So we'll see. I'll give it a try, though. I will read it at some point. If you've read this, let me know in the comments if you think I'll enjoy it or not. And what else have we got? Okay, this one I got recently. This one is called The Night Sessions by Ken MacLeod. It's one of just two hardbacks in this haul. And I got this at a local library book sale at a price of just 10 pence, which is perhaps the cheapest science fiction book I've ever bought. And it's quite impressive when you consider that the original UK price was £18.99. And it's in pretty good condition as well. I've not read Ken MacLeod before. I've been to a talk by him, but I've not read any of his works. And this one looks quite interesting. It was the only sci-fi book they had in the library sale. So I thought, why not? I'll pick it up. If you've read this book or any Ken MacLeod, let me know in the comments below. And finally, I've got quite a special book to finish this off with. This book, The Never-Ending End of the World by Anne Christie. This is a pre-release copy. This book is due to be published in August 2023, and the publishers, Campfire Publishing, they reached out to me and they asked me if I would like a copy of this book, and I said, sure, why not? So they very kindly sent me this book all the way from the US. It's a signed copy. And it came with some other promotional stuff, which I'll show you in a minute. But before I do, let's talk a bit about the book itself. Because I'd never heard of this author before, but this book sounds really interesting. It sounds like my sort of cup of tea. It says on the back, speculative sci-fi, dystopian apocalypse, and scientific mystery coalesce into the never-ending end of the world, a gripping tale of survival, hope, and love from retired naval officer Anne Christie. And it also says, and this is a review from someone, an absolutely astounding book, an astonishing triumph of Gaiman-level imagination. And of course, Neil Gaiman is one of my favourite writers, at least in the fantasy genre. And there seems to be an apocalyptic theme here, or a post-apocalyptic theme here, alongside a time loop, which always interests me. I'll just read you one paragraph of the blurb so you get an idea. Coco Wells hasn't seen another living person since she was a teenager. All of Manhattan is reliving the same few seconds, minutes, or hours on a loop, and they have been for years. Everything looks normal from a distance, but up close, it's a nightmare. So, this premise sounds very intriguing. I will read this soon and let you know what I think. I'll try and get it. I've got a lot of books that I'm planning to read over the next few weeks, but I'll try and make sure I read this one before it's actually published. And the publishers also sent me a few promotional things to go with the book, which is nice. And that includes, for example, this tote bag, which says The Never-Ending End of the World on it. And a few other things. A bookmark. This bracelet. A signed note from the author. Keychain. And there's another keychain that's actually on my key ring, which I don't have with me to hand. And there's also a fridge magnet, which also I don't have to hand. It's on my fridge downstairs, but that's very nice of them. And that's it. I've got a lot of reading to do. Like I said earlier, I think I might read Oracle first, but let me know if there are any books that are mentioned on this list that you would recommend, or perhaps I should prioritize. But I intend to read them all at some point. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more sci-fi content.